Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Zagacki, and welcome to Hurricane Game Day with men's head basketball coach Frank Haith and Josh Darrow. They join me in just a second. Coming up on the show, we'll talk Hurricane hoops with head coach Frank Haith. In this week's Unlimited Access, we take you inside the mind of a student athlete with performance psychologist Ruben Perchek. And we talk education and graduation with Frank Haith and his players. Don't go anywhere. Hurricane Game Day starts right now.
Good pass, guys! We gotta cut harder. Come on, AT!
1, 2, 3.
Together!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hurricane Game Day with University of Miami head coach Frank Haith, Joe Zagacki, joined by my partner in crime, Josh Darrow, as well, as we talk Hurricane basketball. And last week, Hurricanes went on the road for a long week, Coach. Florida State and Boston College, and let's start there as we come down the stretch. Boston College, you went to Chestnut Hill and got a great win.
We did. I thought we played extremely well. First half, we were outstanding on both ends of the court. Our defense obviously was terrific, held them to 17 points, and we executed well on offense. I thought we shared the ball, the best we've shared the ball in a long time in terms of I think we had 15 assists and less than 12 or 13 turnovers, so that was a positive. But we got great contribution for a lot of guys on that night.
Of course, he starts with BC, so he leaves me with Florida State. What happened on Sunday? I know obviously it was a rough start, a strong finish, but again another close loss.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It was a tough start. I thought our guys, we didn't come out ready to play, and that was disappointing. Florida State took it right to us. They shot the ball well, but I thought our intensity and how hard we played was not. We obviously played a lot harder in the second half, but in the first half we got up to a tough start because our energy wasn't what it needed to be in an ACC game.
But in both games, again, you were challenged late in the game. Boston College game, you were able to repel Boston College. The Florida State game was the opposite. You had to come from behind. I guess the common denominator in both of them is your team is still showing a lot of fight.
Yeah, well, even with that said, it was a 6-point loss to Florida State, and our team really came out in the second half and played extremely hard, and we got ourselves back in the game. I think we had a chance. We had the ball with one possession game coming back from 22 points down. So there's no question our team showed a lot of heart and character in getting back in that ball game.
Coach, in both those games, you tinkered with your lineup a little bit. Talk about what you saw with Julian and Adrian, and then Reggie coming off the bench, and he actually had two very, very strong second half performances and really imposed his will on both Boston College and Florida State.
Well, the reason for the change in the lineup was a little bit of our players undoing, not what they're supposed to be doing. So, but
you stayed with it.
Absolutely, I stayed with it in the Florida State game and the Boston College game. There's some discipline things we had to take care of, and obviously we got off to a good start in the Boston College game, so we just stayed with it against Florida State, and we did not get off to a good start. So, but it all worked out pretty good. Obviously in the Florida State game we got a W out of it. Hopefully we'll get back to putting the guys out there in terms of starting the game. We want to start the game.
Still got another week to go, and got Maryland coming up, and then on the road against Georgia Tech. A lot of basketball left to be played. The second half of the season, you're 3-3, so a chance to finish strong, chance to finish 5-3 in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and after getting off to such a tough start, 1-6, put yourself behind 8 ball at the start we had in the first half of the year. If we can finish that way, it will be a nice little going into ACC tournament, get a nice little push going to ACC tournament.
Coach, you talk a lot. You have a lot of time with your players, especially this week on the road. I mean, obviously you spend a lot of time with your players, but 5 days on the road, and I think you spent a lot of time working on their minds. Before each game, asking them to sort of discuss where they were at, where the team was at, trying to decide on some leadership, and I certainly think the kids have a pretty good grasp of where you want them to be as we're closing down the regular season.
Yeah, Josh, it's always good to hear those guys talk to you, and you get a feel for how they're feeling and how they envision themselves, how they envision the team, and that's what that was all about, is getting our guys to talk a little bit and for their teammates to hear them talk, and I think our guys understand, what we need to do in order to win, obviously, but they understand who they are, and And in terms of creating that identity, we've talked about that all year, and I think that's something that this program still needs to do.
Coach, also, we've talked a lot about experience, but it's no secret that your team, in terms of experience, is lower in the ACC. Teams like Florida State, Clemson, they're some of the most experienced teams in the ACC. Duke is one of the most experienced teams in the ACC. And so you see how that experience does work, and your guys are getting a good dose of it. It's tough, but they're getting a good dose of things that I think down the road are going to help them.
Yeah, Virginia Tech too. There's some growing pains, and all those teams have gone through it. And you look at Carolina last year; they were a very young team, and obviously they're having a heck of a year, back, tied for first in our league. So I think there's better days. There's no question, because as we get older, our team will get better.
Well, speaking of coaching their minds, don't go anywhere. There's plenty left right here on the show, and when we come back, we'll take you inside the mind of a student athlete with performance psychologist Ruben Perchek. Stick around. You just might learn a thing or two. Hurricane Game Day on CSS. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hurricane Game Day here on CSS. To succeed in sports, you need to be physically and mentally tough. The mental toughness is especially important for young student athletes. Helping the Canes understand how to deal with the pressure is Dr. Ruben Perchek, and he is the focus of this week's Unlimited Access.
I'm Dr. Ruben Perchek, and I'm the performance psychologist here at the University of Miami Department of Athletics. I get to work with all the teams, including the head coaches, assistant coaches, and all the student athletes here at the university.
Their pressure is at its best to start the game.
My particular specialty is helping teams, individuals, leaders develop the capacity for managing pressure so that they can win and sustain their winning. And also the development of leadership within the high performance context. There is one major difference that the layman doesn't really face on a daily basis, which is going to the edge. In sports and in high performing situations, usually the goals or the outcomes that are being sought are so extraordinary that you have to go to the edge in order to discover what you need to do to manage pressure under high pressure situations. And regular people, don't usually face those high pressure situations on a regular basis. That's the major difference. You feeling a flow now? Yeah. Tell me when you get distracted or there is something that is not truly feeling right. Just let me know when that happens. Most of your attention is in the upper body. Yeah, that's what so we know that, Malcolm, that when you get under high pressure, your tendency is to go kind of stiff, lose the balance, the grounding in your legs, and your shoulders get a little forward. Right. So try to do that. Just go into that mode. I've met people who are older, whose minds are also fragile, and I've met young people who are incredibly tough. I think that the age doesn't play as big of a role. What happens is maturity plays a role. So sometimes the lack of life experience can lead people to make decisions that are inconsistent with the commitments that they've made for their lives. So that's one of the challenges that comes up with youth. But on the other hand, it's a tremendous opportunity and privilege to be working with people in this age group, because you have an opportunity to actually work with a mentality that is not yet so molded or rigid, and at the same time affect the future of our society in a major way through the development of their own capacity to be leaders in their sport and eventually leaders in business and leaders in society. I help them really in the cultivating excellence in their lives in academics and in athletics. And the issues that come up are focus, commitment, the development of the capacity to flow or to get into the zone, you know, to be able to trigger the zone during sports competition. What I work with them on is training their minds to be students of their bodies so that they're better able to allow the flow to come through and trigger that zone and be in rhythm with each other. And that requires practice. It's not something that you can learn through your mind. So if you want your mind to be healthy in high pressure situations, you got to work with your body first. And I'm helping them use meditation to train their minds to be calm, still, and students of their bodies, because they have a lot of talent and they have a lot of instinct. What's important is that you know how to use your intuition to the best of your ability. And that's another reason to use meditation, is to engage intuitive power to come through when you need it most. You want to really get to know your body well, how this happens, so that you intuitively recognize it before you even get there. So just talk to me as you're shooting. What are you doing and what's really happening?
Right now, what's really happening is, like you said, a lot of my attention is up here, not in the lower of my body.
Yeah. So really, you're getting out of rhythm. You know, you're thinking a lot.
Right.
You're like, okay, you know, what you want is to get a really good sense, your body, how your body is feeling. It's a feeling, it's not a thought. It's like, okay, how does this feel? So now go through it the way you know how to do it. Yeah. I help teams come together and work more cohesively with each other so they're all working toward one common purpose. I help the coaching staff both in the development of their own leadership presence, but also in their capacity for relating to their teams and to their student athletes in a way that is effective, and everybody's really working in one cohesive unit, and in the overall picture, representing the university and the purpose of this department to be one of the most excellent programs in the nation.
Unlimited access with Dr. Rubin. And well, if there was ever a year a team needed a sports psychologist, this was probably the year. That being said,
yourself included.
Yeah. That being said, the kids really do seem to respond to Dr. Rubin.
Yeah, I think Rubin has been tremendous. I mean, he has spent a lot of time with our program, not only with our players, but with our coaches and with me individually. And he's helped me tremendously in terms of just staying focused and dealing with, you know, obviously we've had a lot of adversity this year, and how to handle those things. And I think our players, you know, high performance and handling, being able to perform at your best with adversity. And, you know, he's just beginning with this. I think this is a process over a period of time. We'll see it come in terms of it helps us. But he's been really good with us.
I got to imagine, too, that, you know, so many responsibilities for you as a coach in terms of, you know, from X's and O's to scouting, leadership, managing the kids, that it must be a nice relief to have someone else who can intercede and work with the kids and help develop their minds and maybe take something off your plate that he's an expert in that can help them grow and mature as well.
Well, I think obviously his communication patterns is a little different than some of my communication in terms of motivation. So it's nice for those guys to hear a different style, so to speak. And I think it's good for them and relaxing. you know, it opens up their mind a little bit to the point where they'll receive it. And so it's been good in that regards, no question.
Oh, they also, so much of this, there's so much pressure on these kids, both on the court and off the floor. And he's another ear, and he's also good, you know, he's a listener for him, right?
He is, and you know, because, you know, Ruben is, he's learning the game of basketball. So, you know, his communication in terms of them communicating with him, and you saw the piece there, he talks to Malcolm about shooting the free throws. He wants to, you know, he's learning it, but also being able to visualize. He knows about relaxation, your body's and tensing up your body, and free throw shooting. All those things are very important.
That's work, because Malcolm's about 90% from the free throw line. All right, don't go anywhere, because when we come back here on CSS, we'll talk education with Coach Haith and his players. We'll be right back here on Hurricane Game Day. Welcome back to Hurricane Game Day here on CSS. For some, basketball is a way of life. For others, it's just a game. For the young men on Coach Haith's team, it provides an opportunity at a first-class education at the University of Miami, a fact which is not lost on the players.
My education is extremely important because, I mean, I understand the concept of what I will do after basketball. I mean, the ball will stop bouncing eventually, but I mean, I just take that into account every day when I go to class, and I just work towards getting my degree.
It's very important. When I was a young kid, I didn't get good grades, so my parents very hooked on me with that. So as life came along, I started becoming good, and I started using math as my strongest subject, and I always got A's in that. And my mom just loved me just calling her and telling her how good I'm doing, and it just put a smile on her face, so I always want to continue to do that.
It's been a major thing for me pretty much since middle school, because I grew up actually outside of LA, where I was always just trying to strive to do my best academically, and I got to a private school that really pushed me as a student. So when I was looking for colleges, that was my main focus, to find a school that offered top academics as well as high-level basketball. So far, definitely Miami has that.
The kids that come here, they don't come here to play basketball. They come here and play basketball. So it's important that we do our job as educators, because I consider myself as an educator. It's putting them in a position to be successful on and off the court. So there's no question that's why they're here. And we've done a pretty good job of that. Since we've been here, we've graduated 21 out of 22 seniors, and we will definitely continue that. Our kids will graduate.
This education definitely means a lot to my family. I mean, my mom is a kindergarten teacher, my dad's an assistant principal. He actually just got his doctorate 2 years ago. So for me to get my master's, that definitely means a lot to such a young age too.
Well, one thing that Josh and I have learned being around your players is that you're a great role model for them. Is becoming a coach at the University of Miami, you came right up the ranks, but you started off as a teacher. Mm-hmm. You were in the classroom, and you were a teacher.
Yeah, I think it was because of the experiences I had, and in terms of my mentors, people that I looked up to were my teachers. And there's no question our guys have done a great job here. Our staff has done a good job here, or getting kids here that want to graduate. And you know, we sometimes forget that these guys are student athletes. But they've done a great job. We've done a great job of graduating our kids, and we'll continue to do a great job with that.
I wonder if anyone has a real appreciation for what it's like to be a student athlete. I'm sure it gets lost on a lot of people, the amount of work you put in to be an athlete and what you also have to put in to be a student, and then to have students who graduate and are also successful in the classroom.
It's extremely difficult, and as you just said, I mean, it's, you know, for example, the whole week, our guys missed a whole week of class, and we took Kelly Pierce with us, who's our academic advisor, and we had study hall with them, but they're missing class time, and they still must do well in class, as you know, the other students are in class every day, and they got to maintain a high performance in the classroom as they do, as well as on the basketball court.
Coach, do you have to make hard decisions in recruiting? You have great player who maybe school's not real important to him, another player who might not be as talented as player A, but school is really important, and he's going to get, wants to get the education. how important is it to make that decision, or how tough is that decision?
Well, I'm always going to go towards the guy that wants to do well in the classroom, and you know, the true student athlete. And you got to have a good balance, because we want to get good players, and that's our job to find those guys that are really good enough players to play in the Atlantic Coast Conference, but are want-to-be students also. So I think that's important. You're going to have less headaches if you go that route.
I'd imagine, too, someone who's a good student makes them a little easier to coach. A guy who's responsible, taking care of his academics, I'm sure probably has a little more degree of maturity, and you can also teach them better on the court, too. Is that fair?
That is fair, and sometimes those do go in hand in hand, but there's some really good players that are great students, too. I'll be honest.
I just meant from the burden of coaching.
Absolutely, absolutely. But there's no question that they do go in hand in hand, and I think that it's our job. They're out there, and we got to get those guys.
Well, I guess also, I mean, it's recruiting isn't just about numbers. You can't recruit them if you can't coach them or teach them, right? I mean,
no question, and I think that, you know, them being able to pick up things on a basketball court and understand what we're trying to do, a lot of times that does, you know. But there's some guys I've been around in 25 years in this business where off the court academics they struggle, but on that court they had a great sense of where they need to be and understanding the game. So it's sometimes a little different.
On the court, they knew their geography well.
Exactly.
All right, stay with us as we continue. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. We'll take a look at the next two games, Maryland and Georgia Tech, 2 regular season games to go in the ACC. Back with Coach Haith right here on CSS. Welcome back to Hurricane Game Day here on CSS with University of Miami head coach Frank Haith. 2 games to go, Maryland and Georgia Tech. Chance to go 5-3 here in the second half and improve your position in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, there's no question. There are 2 important games, one at home, one on the road. The home game here today, extremely important game in terms of playing a team that we're battling with in terms of positioning in for the ACC tournament. And coming off a tough loss against North Carolina, but a very talented Maryland team, and probably one of the best low post players in the country, if, you know, obviously in the ACC, and Jordan Williams.
How about a look ahead to Sunday in Georgia Tech? They've got good guard play, and we know they like the pressure.
Yeah, Shumpert's very talented, but Rice, I mean, they're athletic, they're long, very gifted team. We got to take care of the basketball against them.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Coach, the best of luck tonight and on Sunday against Georgia Tech. For Josh Darrow and University of Miami head coach Frank Haith, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on CSS.
Knock it down, Garrett. Good shot, Garrett.